I'm Robyn Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show. Welcome. I'm here with Chad Durfee, and this guy is super awesome. Okay, I know this guy actually from two masterminds that I met through a mastermind called War Room and a mastermind we just got back from called Flight Club. Really incredible groups. We had an amazing time. But let me tell you about Chad. He is the CEO of Referral Wave. Excuse me. Is it Referral Wave or Referral ROI?
Referral ROI is the parent company. Referral Wave is the DBA.
Oh, okay. And you told me that, but I didn't process that. Okay. So I'm going to read some of this amazing stuff because he has a bio here. Okay. So it's actually, he has an advanced degree in behavioral and social psychology, combined with over 20 years of high ticket sales experience, been coaching, consulting, and leading in the sales and service industry, and is an expert in organic lead generation and client retention. So let me just put it this way. All right. This guy knows his stuff about getting a boatload of referrals. And actually, when I told my clients we were going to say shit ton, I can say that here. And then I got a little bit nicer and I said boatload. But basically what I love about this, you like both, right? Regardless, it's a lot. Okay. But what I like about this is that you're phenomenal at a system. And this is what I love, the keyword system, having a system to get referrals in a way that doesn't make people feel awkward or weird. And that's key because most people don't want to ask for referrals because it makes them feel, no one wants to give referrals. It feels really uncomfortable. But a system that makes people actually feel good about it and want to refer at all. So tell us a little about kind of how you got into this and why you went this path. But I'll say one more thing about this, especially for female financial professionals. Okay. Especially for female financial professionals or financial professionals at all. When I asked all of you ladies, and I have those of you who are listening to this podcast right now can't see, but we're actually live with our femmes, our ladies in our femme mentorship, our female empowered moneymaker mentorship. So when I talk to them, you know why? It's because they exist. But the biggest thing we found when we were doing our marketing plan is that what's working the best, which is what we like to look at. And of course it was referrals, but I'm like, okay, let's double down on that. And no one had a system really and knew how to really duplicate it. So I was, instead of pretending like I knew, I'm like, let me bring on some experts. And here's one of them, Chad Durfee. Now you're allowed to talk.
Okay, good. So the best expert, by the way, of all the experts. So I'm gonna plug myself there.
Of course, the best. And yes, no other expert.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So obviously my educational background is in psychology. I've been in the high ticket sales space for over 20 years. And what I found was the majority of my business came from referrals as well. And I'm a systems and processes guy. I'm a big believer in if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. And I got kind of, I'd always been taught through sales trainers how to ask for referrals. And it always felt awkward. I always felt like I was pressuring people. All those normal feelings would come up, right? Like I'm begging for business, et cetera. And what I understood is if I was feeling those things, oftentimes the client was feeling those things as well through me. And so what I teach is not like, mom and dad's way of asking for referrals and kind of ambushing your clients with them so much. What I decided to do was kind of go back on my educational background and figure out really what the motivators and triggers and levers are for, that would make a client want to refer you. And then how could we systematize a process that allows us to tug on those in a way that feels natural and organic, right? It almost feels like it's their idea, which anytime you're in any sales space, when something feels like the client's idea, it's easy, right? None of those feelings pop up. So I first started doing this in the car industry, which was my first high ticket sales job, which is a very high pressure industry. And very quickly, within a year of being at the dealership, I was already the number one salesperson at the dealership, doing over 40 cars a month, 40 to 50 cars a month. The next closest was at 15. And what I found was most of my stuff was via referral, right? I started basically just guinea pigging my clients, and I would test things out, and I would test different this and that and whatever. And then I moved from that into the real estate and mortgage industry, and I did the same thing there, and would test and test and test. And I've just been perfecting this over the past 20 years. It got to a point that for every lead a realtor would send me, every business deal that I would get, I would have 3 or 4 that I could then give back in return. And so that business grew really pretty rapidly. At the same time, I started a coaching business, a motivational intelligence company, which I've since, built and sold. But we did the same thing there. That's how we grew that business so quickly. So I've done this multiple times myself in different industries, and I've done all the testing, and I've gone through all that heartache of putting the systems in place. And at this point, and I don't know if this is too long, but it's just a little bit more about me. Like, I work across industries. So I have clients who are realtors, mortgage professionals, wealth advisors. I have dentists and doctors and chiropractors. I have coaches and consultants and agencies across the board. You name it, I've probably worked in that industry. And the thing that we're finding across industries right now is the system that we've put in place works. If you have a high ticket client, if you have a high ticket product, which you guys, it sounds like do, obviously in wealth advisory and financial planning, and your clients are human beings, not AI, then the process works because it's based in human psychology, right? So this isn't, I think one of the biggest misconceptions around referrals is you just ask, right? The more you ask, the more you get. And that might work for a second, but it's going to be inconsistent and not predictable. And when it's not consistent or predictable, we don't focus as much on it, right? Like Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows. And the opposite is true as well. So when we don't focus on it, we don't create systems around it. And when there aren't systems around it, then the inconsistency perpetuates, which then continues that spiral. Right. So all we've done is we've taken that high level psychology and broken it down into really simple systems and processes that work consistently.
I wanted to create a new word. You thought it, like you said, system and consistency together. And I'm like, inconsistent. That's really hard to say. Inconsistent. Yeah, I'm not even going to do it. Okay. Clearly should not write the dictionary. Okay. But back to you. So this is awesome. So I think for me, when I became a financial advisor, and I wonder if a lot of the listeners can relate. And I think it's either one or the other, like where I was taught that I had to get referrals, and I was at an independent firm. But even when I first started, they were like, they wanted, of course, me to get referrals. I had to start with my warm market, my list of 100. And then for every person I met with, I was supposed to get a minimum 8 referrals. And the way that we were supposed to do it is, of course, something stupid like, hey, who else do you know who might benefit from my stupid services? Or, something like that. Like, who else wants to grow, wouldn't mind having more money? Like, cause then it seems like everybody, and like, no one can say no to that. But of course, people don't want to say yes to that, and they feel super uncomfortable. And it was to a point where we at the firm, we were incentivized, or actually the opposite. And I'm afraid now to use words after I completely botched that, but the opposite of incentivized, decentivized, is that a word? So de-incentivized. So if we didn't get at least 8 referrals, we had to write like an essay. Essentially, we had to write what was the objection. So if they said, "Oh, I feel uncomfortable," we'd have to write. So I asked, I only got 6 referrals or 2 referrals or whatever, or none. And then we'd have to write, what was the objection? I'd say, I feel uncomfortable. And then we'd have to write, what were the 3 ways you handled that objection? And I'm supposed to write out so I said, I completely understand. This makes you feel uncomfortable. However, if that person, if I don't even remember how they did objection handling, I'm sure it was horrible. But I had to write that out. I can go back, and this is like 15 years. I can go back and remember being in that office. Like, I had to turn the page over because there was so much to write because I was trying to handle the stupid objection. I don't know why I did the homework. It's not like, I was at an independent firm. Like, what were they going to do? Like, take away my commissions? But I was trying to be coachable. And so I did it. And so I actually was incentivized to get referrals because I didn't want to write that damn essay. And so I remember being at someone's house, and he, of course he's, I start trying to make it a joke. I was like, hey, who else do you know, buddy? And he's like, I don't really know anyone. And I was like, really? And I like grabbed his phone and I'm like, what about Bob? Who's Bob? Let's talk about Bob. I mean, do you think he wants a little bit more money? Come on, I'm going to call Bob. It's cool. You can tell him I'm calling, tell him I'm funny, whatever. And so I would have fun with it and like get names. They weren't qualified, of course, but they were like anyone who's breathing, which is the industry telling you, get anyone who's breathing. And I would write down those names. And I actually did build my business with, crappy leads and all that, but it was because I was forced to. And then, it does work, right? When you can get the referrals, like they become clients. So that's great. It would have been lovely if I did it without having to steal someone's phone and, twist his arm. And it would have been lovely if it made them feel good instead of made them feel awkward. And of course, I only did that until they made me. And then we weren't like fully independent. Then we went fully independent and then they didn't make us anymore. And then I stopped doing it because in my gut, I felt super uncomfortable and weird. And so I rarely asked for referrals. I would still get referrals like all of you ladies who are getting referrals because I was good at what I did. And then people would think of me and then they would refer, but I wasn't doing it systematically.
Well,
what do you got to say to that?
Well, I got a lot to say to that.
I bet.
First of all, the financial advisory, wealth advisory industry is one of the maybe top 3 industries that have given referrals a bad name, right? Because of the forceful nature and how against human psychology it goes. And they still do it today, right? Like here's a piece of paper, write down 5 names, right? Whatever those things are. A lot of times, there are some people that are in the industry that are doing a good job, like Bill Cates. I don't know if anybody knows him. He does a good job of trying to like soften the blow of asking for referrals. But let me talk about it from a psychological level. The number one reason why anybody would ever refer anybody is social capital, right? So, and I'll explain that in just a second. Human beings were tribal people, and back in caveman days, if you got kicked out of your tribe, it was a death sentence, right? If you got banished or whatever that was, like living on your own doesn't happen. So over time, our brains develop certain defense mechanisms. So anytime we're in relationship with somebody or we do something for somebody or we do anything that we support people with, it was conducive to our survival. So our brain gives us a shot of serotonin, dopamine, those feel good chemicals. And that's why when people say I referred you because it felt good, it feels good to help people. It's the survival mechanism and your brain's still doing that. So people aren't necessarily referring you because they like you. They're referring you because they think that you're going to make them look good to whoever they're referring you to. You can actually support that person. And if you can support that person and add value that to that individual, it's going to raise their importance in that individual's life, which is the same thing as like in your tribe. Like, you were constantly trying to raise your importance in the tribe so you didn't get kicked out and die. So that's the first thing to realize. People are going to refer you high quality people when they feel like you are going to add value to those people. And ambushing them and pressuring them for referral requests does not add value. That actually de-incentivizes your client to refer you high quality people. They're going to just write down names of people they don't even know, and they probably won't even introduce you, or allow you to reach out in a lot of times. So, and the other thing to realize is besides the will to survive, the will to matter is the next most important human motivator, right? The will to be wanted, the will to allow, or I guess have people want you in their life. And so referring them to you and adding value makes you matter to them, right? So like if my friend referred me to you, Robyn, and you help me fix my finances and make a bunch of money, and I go back to my buddy and I'm like, yo, thank you for introducing me to Robyn. She's crushing it for me. It increases his importance, right? Like he has the perception that like now he has a higher status in my life. And that's all referrals really are. It's status. At the very base level, it's status. So how do we quickly and easily convince people that them introducing us is actually going to be beneficial for them, right? In that way. Does that make sense? So that's really what's happening behind the scenes, in case anybody wants to know. They're not referring you because they like you. Like, I've got buddies that are mortgage brokers that are like best friends from high school. I don't refer them, right? I refer some of my other people that I've worked with because I know they've got a better customer experience and that it's going to make me look better. I
hope
like
you're
my
not
friend
listening
more.
to this podcast for women, Chad, because they're going to feel really sad about that.
I told them, they were like, hey, why don't you refer me?
I don't mean because they refer because they like you, because they like the service they're getting. And that goes back to the value that you provide. And here's what I talk a lot about is the pyramid. You probably know about this, Chad, like Chet Holmes pyramid. There's 3% looking to buy, right? Mm-hmm. So if you guys look this up, it's from the Ultimate Sales Machine. But Chet Holmes, he said that there are 3% of the pyramid that could be, let's say, retirees, that could be divorcees or whatever. 3% are ready to buy. They're actually looking for someone. So they're looking for a financial advisor. And 7% are open to it. Like, oh yeah, I could see how that could be valuable if I found the right person. Like I could hire a financial advisor or buy insurance or whatever. Then 30% aren't thinking about it. 30% don't think they're interested, and 30% know they're not interested. I talk about this at length that my ladies are probably like so sick of hearing it, but I talk about the sweet spot being the 67% in the middle there. They're not thinking about it, but this is why messaging is so important, because if they're not thinking about it, but you could provide a solution for them or give them a result that they want, they're thinking about the result. They're just not thinking about hiring a financial advisor. Then they might talk to you. Okay. This is having nothing to do with referrals, but I'll get to that. So what I talk a lot about is how referrals are in that 3%. So when you do get referred, because you're doing a great job in providing an excellent service from your client, when you get a referral from your client, it's because someone came to them and said, hey, Chad, do you happen to know a financial advisor? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Tandy, she's the bomb, so you might refer Tandy because you work with Tandy and you love working with Tandy, and someone's asking you. So there's no discomfort there. They're in that 3%. They're looking. So if anyone comes to me and asks, for do you know anyone who is really great at getting referrals? I'm like, duh, Chad. But so there's no risk of that social capital if someone comes to you, but then that's only in the 3%. So what you're talking about is taking it a whole other level, is like, and we have a system called the Clone Your Client system and Clone Your Client script, where it's similar in the sense like creating that social capital, where we use appropriate messaging so that the person, like their client, aligns with their mission. And they believe that, if I help like my clients, for example, and you even told me this, and I would say it anyway, but you said, make sure when you're asking for your referrals and you do your video, make sure you talk about what's important to you, the whole mission of increasing the footprint of women in the industry from 24 to 50%, because they're not, even if you give them all the gifts and you flower them or shower them with all this money, like no one cares if they don't feel like they're aligned with the mission, and they're not going to want to do it, And so that's what I'm constantly talking about is the mission, because that's what I care about. But I think that goes back to exactly what you're talking about, is that social capital, and that need or that desire to belong, however you said it, is like all part of that messaging and that mission.
Absolutely. So like at a high level, what we're trying to do is we're trying to flip the paradigm with referrals. We want to try and stop making it about you and make it about your clients and their opportunity to serve their tribe. Right. And oftentimes the way that you've been taught to ask, or people have been taught to ask, is it's making it all about you. Right. Like I've seen scripts. It's like, hey, the way I build my business is with, great clients like you. But it's me, my, versus like, hey, I have this amazing thing of value here that's different than a lot of other, financial planners or whatever industry you're in. I got this thing, and here's what it can do. Right. And it would be amazing if I could support you to like think of some other people in your life that we can just give this to, right? And we can give them some information, we can give them some stuff, and I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to take that to them. Not saying that that's word scripts, but at a high level, in their mind, they're like, oh, this is something unique. It's something of value that I can like talk to my mom or my dad or my friend or my coworker or whatever. It's like, hey, I got this thing I can give you, or this newsletter, this tool, or this whatever. I'd love to, like, can I shoot it over to you? I think it'd be really valuable, right? Here's how it's helping me. So anything that you guys can do that is unique and valuable that your clients can share is going to really increase the probability that they're going to introduce you. And then all we do is, we create a system behind that pinpoints the right times and placements to ask for those things, how to do it, when to follow up, those types of things. Right.
No.
But at a high level, that's all it is. It's here's the value I can provide in a unique way. That's all marketing is. It's marketing, right? How many different companies are there that are out there doing the exact same thing. But the ones that have a way to market it as like this unique new thing or this extra valuable thing, just the messaging they use are the ones that get the most business, right? Because they position it appropriately, and then people share it because they're like, hey, I got this thing, I want to share it. Like with people, like I got this value, I want to share it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I was going to add is that I think the big difference between what you're doing, because I have that mission and the messaging and one of the strategies that we use, but then getting my clients to actually follow through with it, point, nudge, nudge, nudge. It's hard because it's not automated. It's still, even though they know logically, like, because this clone your client thing is, the idea is that you go to someone who already loves you and they love working with you anyway. And if you bring the messaging and the mission behind it, and there's a whole strategy to it of how you ask for introductions. We don't talk about referrals just like you do. It's an introduction. But how you do that in a way to drive them to introduce, that's great. But now I still have to get on the freaking phone or get on Zoom and have that conversation with them. I think the huge difference is that you've automated it. You've made it a lot easier. You've systematized it in a way that it's really plug and play, which is really great for me. Because just to share my experience so far, we launched it, as some of you listening know, 2 days ago, right? I think it was 2 days ago, exactly. And so far I've already gotten 6 introductions. Thank you, ladies. 6 introductions. And I got on one call today, and I didn't try to sell her anything. I got on this one call and I was like, awesome. I'm going to give you this VIP ticket to our PYFP, our Positioning Yourself for Profits event. I'm also going to give the person who introduced you the event. So there's nothing for you to do right now except come, like just attend, just soak up the value, and I know she felt really good about that. But of course, the whole time I'm planting seeds about why she needs to work with me, because I know she needs it. And I'm not going to let her off the hook and just say, oh, forget it. But that's all the mission and the messaging, all that stuff, and knowing how to influence people. I think the way you take it to a whole other level is like, including all the psychology around it, because most people don't do that. But at a whole new level is the automation of it, the system of it, the follow-up of it, the arcs, like you started to talk about. So give them like one more piece about like the timing and the actually, if you could teach them about the priming, timing, reminding stuff that I know about, and then we'll tell them how to find you and how to get your goods. Yeah, absolutely. So there are 3 pillars that have to be in place for you to get consistent, high quality referral leads. I call them priming, timing, reminding. Priming is, how do you get your clients excited about and wanting to refer you from the very first day? Timing is, when do you make the actual direct referral request, and how do you set it up appropriately so that it feels good? And the reminding is, how do you consistently keep them engaged even after they've left your experience, so that they continue referring you long after this? When those 3 pillars are in place and systematized, referrals are easy. The other thing to realize is referrals come in arcs and waves, right? It's one of those things where all we're doing is we're using those 3 pillars, we're putting them in the right places so that these arcs and waves come faster and bigger, which then increases not just the quantity, but the quality of the referrals that you get. A best example of this too, like, when it comes to like priming, when I was a kid, and I've told this story a bunch, but like my first real job was mowing lawns. And I would go around the neighborhood and I would ask people if I could borrow their lawnmower, and they could pay me like $10 to mow their lawn. And occasionally I'd come across one of those lawnmowers that didn't have that little priming button on it, and I'd spend like more time trying to start it as like a little 12-year-old, like skinny little 12-year-old trying to start this lawnmower. It took me 10 minutes to start it and 5 to mow the lawn, and it was just so frustrating. There was a Super Bowl commercial actually about that kind of showed that. I was laughing because I was like, I know exactly how that dude feels. But when I come across one of those lawnmowers that had that little primer button on it, it was like one pull and I was like off to the races. We do the same thing with human beings, right? Like, just like Robyn said with this introduction that she just got and the conversation that you already had, you're not trying to like pull start that right now, and like hard sell this person, which is going to be hard and inefficient. You're priming, right? You're giving value, you're giving next steps. And then when you get to the point that she's at, the position where you need her to be and she's ready, then it's a really easy sell. It's a really easy close. And it feels really good for everybody involved. It's the same thing with any business, right?
from day one, there has to be a process to start priming, right? And then maybe day 14, day 21, day 30, right? Depending on your client life cycle is where we'd come back and we'd follow up with more of a direct referral request after we've given them ample time to like warm up to it, right? As opposed to the very first time you meet them, like, hey, 8 people. And they're like, I don't even know you. Like,
just write it down or I'm going to have to write an essay. You don't understand.
Yeah. And a lot of people,
I swear
like,
I can help them.
Yeah, a lot of people at this day and age, like they'll walk out. Like if I go to a wealth advisor, they do that to me, like I'm out. I'm like, yeah, sorry, I'm leaving. Right. Or if I'm feeling so pressured that I have to write names down, like I'm writing shitty names down. Like they're not my actual contacts that I really want to introduce you to.
Well, I often tell a story about how someone said to me, they said, hey, Robyn, like, I'm selling Cutco knives on the side, like as a side hustle. Can I come and do my presentation, for you and Trevor? And I said, sure. Like, I know what's coming. You're going to sell me knives, obviously, but like, I want to help you out. I get it, how hard it is, entrepreneur, whatever. And she gave me her why, which was like, because I'm trying to help out my kid with extracurricular activities. I have a good job and everything. I'm just doing this as a side hustle so I can help my kid out. She got her why in there. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I met with her. I do not care about knives. Like I'm really, really like, I like to buy cheap shit. Like it's really not my go-to to buy a $200 knife. But then again, like, she asked and I wanted to support her as an entrepreneur and I know it's tough. And so I bought a couple knives, but then at the end, she was like, hey, she's showing me like some other knife that I didn't want, but she's like, she's made it sound like I wanted. She's like, if you give me 10 referrals, then I will give you this slicer. And if you give me another 10, I will give you this whatever knife. And I was like, okay, let me think about it. Right. I gave her 0 referrals. Right. And part of it when I talk about this is that like, if she had asked for introductions, it would have been easier, but it was also like, she was trying to incentivize me with something I didn't want. And you also talk about gifts and how to gift like people in a way that like for things they want. But then it was also, I just felt uncomfortable. I wasn't going to just refer people when there was no real incentive there. And I know we didn't get into this incentives, but we'll plant the seed here. There's also like an incentive part of it. But more than anything, it was because there was no mission-based language behind it. Like she wasn't telling me like she's selling knives to serve others. Like I know she wanted to hook it up for her son and everything. And that's great. But it kind of reminds me of realtors who are like, after they sell you the house, they're like, I build my business based on referrals. And you're like, go get another freaking Mercedes. I don't care. Like, I'm not here to go feel uncomfortable so you can buy yourself a bigger house. Okay. And that's kind of this, very bad rap that realtors get, but it's like, that's how they come across, so I think it's really important, all the psychology that your background and all that behind it is such huge takeaways. And then how you go about it and then having a system. We just touched upon just a few things, but I know what you said you would give is just insane. Like that you're going to go ahead. Did you want to add something first before I tell what you're going to give?
Just as an example, case in point with the Cutco knives, and this is where most companies and sales professionals in general like screw up. You're trying to get stuff so fast that you're not actually giving the customer the experience that they want. Had she scheduled an appointment to come back the next month and sharpen your knives for free, she's just like, hey, I'm going to come back next month. I want to sharpen them. I want to make sure that you got the best experience ever. She sends you like a little card afterwards. Comes back and sharpens your knife. And then maybe at day 45 reaches out and she's like, how are you liking those knives? And you're like, dude, these knives, because Cutco knives are actually really good.
They are better than my other crappy knives. Right? I'll tell you that they are.
They're really, really good. And, and then had she come back with a process, it's like, hey, I would really love to support some other people with these services. And, if there's anybody you can think of, I would, right. If she had asked then, after she had given some more value and she had like predicted, you might have introduced her to somebody else and be like, hey, you know what? Actually, maybe I do know somebody. Not saying that that's the case or that's the process, but it's an example of people trying to shortcut the system. And that's why realtors get such a bad rap. Like they don't talk to you about referrals until the very end. And they're like, hey, give me referrals. But they don't really do anything else after that. Right. Or wealth advisors at the very beginning. Hey, give me 8 names. But they're like trying to shortcut the system. The names are more important than the actual people behind the names. And so if we create an experience that provides value where other people don't, and then pick the right times to come back and follow up once reciprocity has been engaged, which by the way, guys, reciprocity is the only, like that is social currency. You should never make an ask without a true give. And, signing them up to do insurance is not really a true give. You can create that story, but, there are other things that we can create where we can give and then come back with a more effective request.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Let's tell them. So Chad is going to give an amazing gift. I mean, and you can say, oh, that's not a real gift, because you'll also, if you end up working with them, you'll get really cool gifts. But you said you personally, is this right? That you personally would get on a call with someone if they want to hear more? Obviously, he has the goods if you want to learn the referral system. So he's going to give it to you guys. You can get on a 15-minute call with him. And usually people, say, hey, especially from a podcast, they'll be like, oh, talk to my team. I mean, I usually do that too, because it's just, we're so busy, but we're putting it out there as long as he can handle it. You go to referralwave.com/RC. RC for Robyn Crane, in case you don't know how to spell my name. I'm making sure you don't mess it up, because some people might think it's an I when it's a Y. And since my podcast is called Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way, not Robyn Crane Show, I'm helping you out there. So referralwave.com/RC. He'll hook you up with also a gift, right? You're going to give them some sort of gift, because he will not just be like, here, jump on a call. So what do you got for them?
So on that page, there's going to be a calculator that they can do. And there's a whole instructional video there that's going to show them exactly how much additional revenue is available for them based on their own numbers. And then from there, there's going to be it'll actually be my personal calendar. So the spots might be a little bit sparse because it's me, but it's a 15-minute game plan session where we'll jump on that. You'll let me know, what your business is, who your ideal client is, like really what your niche is. And I can give you some next steps that will help you kind of recoup more of that income, probably double the referrals, from what you got last year.
Seriously,
with a couple little steps.
He spoke at this mastermind, and so that I had not seen that referral calculator, even though I had hired you, and you put it up on the board. I'm trying to find. Oh, I took a picture because I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But it said additional referral revenue is $381,000 for me. Additional referral revenue. And I think missed revenue that I can't capture, right? That's because I haven't been asking, and those people who, even though they love my program 2-3 years ago, they could care less about me now and my mission. Don't ever be that, ladies.
Came in, left. Yep.
That's over $500,000 of missed revenue because I didn't have this system. Now everyone's going to have different numbers, but if that's even, in the 30, 50, 100,000 range, holy cow, it's so ridiculous. And it's in a way that's just so serving people. And we all know that what we do is life-changing for people. You all know that. It's just that it's awkward to try to sometimes communicate that. And again, I would highly recommend go to referralwave.com/RC, check it out, talk to Chad. He's amazing, and get on his calendar. Thank you, Chad. That was excellent.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Are you getting all the quality prospects on your calendar that you'd like? If not, join us in the Appointment Generator Challenge. Go to femalefinancialadvisors.com and register for free. We guarantee you'll get 5 quality appointments in 5 days if you follow this system, and you can do it from online. You don't even have to pick up the phone. Whether you're just starting, whether you've been in the industry 3 to 5 years, or even 30 years, this challenge will be perfect for you. Check it out, femalefinancialadvisors.com, and register for absolutely free. Can't wait to see you there.